Well, ladies and gentlemen, thanks to your support in helping Tousi TV and other new media, independent media outlets growing, we now have the globalist media, the corporatist media, who go to Davos and the World Economic Forum conference. They have their conversations and they have their caviar and champagne. They're freaking out. We know they're freaking out because that's exactly what they're saying. Emma Tucker, who is the editor-in-chief of the Wall Street Journal, actually in Davos, said the exact same thing, that they are so arrogant. Because she said, we used to own the news. Whatever we reported, people thought it's a fact. But things have changed since the emergence of new media and channels like Tousi TV.
If you go back really not that long ago, as I say, we owned the news. We were the gatekeepers, and we very much owned the facts as well. If it said it in the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, then that was a fact. Nowadays, people can go to all sorts of different sources for the news, and they're much more questioning about what we're saying. So it's no longer good enough for us just to say, this is what happened, or this is the news. We have to explain our working. So readers expect to understand how we source stories. They want to know how we go about getting stories. We have to sort of lift the bonnet, as it were, and in a way that newspapers aren't used to doing, and explain to people what we're doing. We need to be much more transparent about how we go about collecting the news.
Now, following the Davos conference, we also, a couple of days ago, we had Elon Musk sitting down with Ben Shapiro to talk about this issue, and how, of course, Elon Musk has also empowered a lot of independent journalists and reporters and broadcasters to use his platform, X or Twitter, to essentially grow the new media movement. The revolution is here, and we are not getting defeated.
For newspapers in America, there are about 5 editors that decide what gets put on the front page, or what to focus on or what not to focus on, and most of the other papers just copy them, essentially. So, but is that really what we want? Do we want just a handful of people deciding what they think is important, or should it be that the people decide what's important? And I think it should be sort of an organic thing where the people decide what's important and what to focus on, not just a handful of editors. Yeah, they don't like the fact that this power has been taken away from them, but I think it should be.
I want to go back to something that you said a little bit earlier, talking about the idea that on a moral level, there's nothing that suggests that simple weakness is itself virtue. That a weak person can be virtuous, but doesn't necessarily mean that they are. A powerful person can be, the victimizer, but doesn't necessarily mean that they are. That logic carried forward, particularly to what's going on in Israel right now, has been, in my opinion, entirely pernicious and wrong. There's this idea that because Israel is a powerful, militarily sophisticated country that is doing its best to limit civilian casualties in one of the most population-dense areas of the world, in which you have terrorists who are honeycombed throughout every aspect of society, building literally hundreds of miles of tunnels, the entire London subway system worth of tunnels underneath the ground, that somehow, Israel targeting those systems and killing a lot of people, because when you kill terrorists, unfortunately, and they're embedded among civilians, it's terrible and it's horrifying, but every one of those deaths is on the terrorist group that embeds itself with civilians. There's been this logic has been mapped onto that conflict, that smaller and weaker means morally virtuous because victimized.
Yeah, it really has come completely full circle from, or 180 degrees from what has historically been the case. So through most of history, the operating principle has been might makes right. So, yeah, for really up until modern times, might makes right was if you were stronger, you were right. Now we've sort of flipped it to if you're weaker, you're right. But neither is true. There is rightness independent of strength or weakness. Just because somebody's strong doesn't mean they're right, and because somebody's weak doesn't mean they're right. You have to look at morals in the absolute.
Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think. I'm Tousi, and we are the media.